start our first video of this semester, Module 1, Basics of Transistors, Part A, Trends of Transistor Technology, Part 8.1, Moore's Law. All right. First, when we talk about the trend of transistor technology, we have to talk about a very famous law, Moore's Law. Yeah. Some of you may have heard of that. Yeah. So it's like this, okay? Yeah. So Moore's Law is the observation that the number of transistors in a dense integrated circuit doubles not precisely, about every 2 years. That's the meaning of the Moore's Law. It came from observation. Here you see this observation or experience or statistics, right? Based on the history data. Yeah. So look at this picture. Yeah. It gives the the data for different CPU, different models, different manufacturers, in different years. Yeah. So here you can see, the increasing rate, pretty much, steady, right? Yeah. Moore's Law. Okay. Yeah. Author called Gordon Moore. Gordon Moore. Yeah. Who is he? Yeah. This picture. Yeah. Gordon Moore. He's a co-founder of Intel Corporation. Yeah. So we know Intel, right? Yeah. So Intel, microprocessor chip manufacturer. Yeah. Famous. Yeah. This prediction was made in 1965. Yeah. At that time, Intel was not created. So, a few years before Intel was founded. Yeah. So at that time, Gordon Moore, he was in a company called Fairchild Semiconductor. Fairchild Semiconductor, another very famous semiconductor company. Yeah. All right. So at that time, in the article in a magazine called Electronics Magazine, he told a reporter, he made this prediction, in that article. Yeah. All right. The initial version was not the current one. The initial version is quite different. The initial version is double every year. Every 1 year, that fast. Yeah. The reason is very simple, because at that early time, 1960s, that early time, the base number of transistors per unit square, the number is very small. So it is very easy to double every year, right? Yeah. For approximately 10-year period of time. That pace can be maintained. Yeah. But because when the base number became bigger and bigger, that rate cannot be maintained. Yeah. So later, 10 years later, after his first prediction, he revised his prediction, doubled every 2 years. That's the current version, every 2 years. Yeah. Although some of the engineers, they also use a version between 1 year, 2 year, 1.5 year. Yeah. So they use 18 months version. Okay? Yeah. So there is another version, 18 months version. But the most famous version is this every 2 years. The most famous version. Yeah. Yeah. All right. And Intel was founded in 1968. At the beginning, Intel was not called Intel. It was called NM Electronics. NM Electronics. Two co-founders, right? One co-founder more, that's the N. Another co-founder N, the name, Noise. Noise. So NM Electronics. But, that name is what, not very good. They felt not very good. So later they changed to Intel. Actually, so they tried very hard, to get this name. It is a good name. So right now, Intel is extremely popular, All right. More on Moore's law. So let's talk about a little more facts related to Moore's law. Yes. Here, the Moore's law. In the Moore's law, we can see we talk about number of transistors per unit square. So usually people use the per unit square of inch. You have to compare on the same amount of area of the integrated circuit. So we call the transistor density. We compare transistor density. All right. But, so later there are different versions. There are several different versions. So we will see there are other versions. We also refer to Moore's law. First, it is observation and projection of historical trend. Why we say in this way? Because from the name Moore's law, it is very easy to connect to scientific law or physics law. It's not. Although we call Moore's law, but it is not a scientific law. It is not a law of physics. Okay? So if we look at the law of physics, the easy examples, Newton's laws, right? Newton's first law, second law, third law. Those are the scientific laws. Okay? Not prediction, not observation, right? Scientific laws. People can do a lot of experiments to prove they are true. Those laws, always true, right? But Moore's law, sometimes true, sometimes not quite true. It was true for a period of about 40 years. Okay? For about a period of approximately 40 years. And in recent years, then it is very hard to maintain that increasing rate, because that increasing rate is very high. Double every 2 years. Think about how much is the increasing rate of the transistor density. In recent years, it is extremely hard to maintain this kind of high rate. So I will talk about this issue in my second video. Much more. Okay? All right. So it is an empirical relationship from experience in production. Observation. So that's really, after some period of time, then the observation, empirical experience will be different, right? Yes. So it will change. All right. And used in, but it is very useful. Moore's law, extremely useful, because of this. In semiconductor industry, when people want to make long-term planning, then they're based on the Moore's law. So that's very important. So when you want to do some long-term planning, okay, 10-year period, long-term, 20-year period, long-term. So then this Moore's law is a big thing, a big factor you need to put in your planning. Okay, when you set targets for research and development, so you have to, put this in your mind. Okay, here I like to use a simple example to explain the power of the Moore's law. So look at these two machines. One from 2000 year, okay? Another 2010, 10 years difference. Yeah, two different machines. Okay, yeah, Apple one, yeah, that green Apple machine. Yeah, if we compare the statistics, or if we compare the numbers, all right, yeah, you can see the smaller one actually has better numbers related to the CPU. Here, the font very small. Price very cheap, right? About 1/3 of the price. Price very cheap. Yeah, but memory RAM 4 times big. The smaller one has 4 times as big memory as the big one. Okay, yeah, and display resolution pretty much the same. Yeah, the smaller one is a little smaller but very close. Okay, resolution. Yeah, and storage, the smaller one is a little larger than the big one. See? Yeah, and let's see. Yeah. All right. Yeah. Yeah. CPU. Yeah. All right. So you can see that kind of huge difference. Definitely, when people do the planning, you need to consider that. Okay. Yeah. All right. Next. Yeah. Versions of Moore's law. The initial version is like this. We are talking about transistor density, but we do not have to always use that version. We can change to other different versions. Okay. So here I use example AMD CPU processors. AMD, because recent years they are doing extremely well. Yeah. So they put a big threat to Intel cooperation. Yeah. In many technology parts, they are doing much better than Intel. Yes, AMD. Yeah. So currently, they are developing microprocessors, Zen, some number. So Zen 2, Zen 3, Zen 4. So right now it's in this Zen 3, this place. Yeah. Here you can see the number 14 nm, 12 nm, 7 nm nanometer. So that's the feature size. We call it feature size. Feature size. Yeah. In next few videos, I will explain this feature size. Here you just understand the size we use to measure how large one transistor is. Feature size. Yeah. Yeah. The smaller the feature size, the smaller the transistor. Yeah. The transistor has a size, right? Yeah. The transistor usually this shape, a rectangle. Okay. The dimension. Yeah. Width, height. Okay. Yeah. The feature size refers to the smaller dimension. Smaller dimension. Yeah. So here 7 nm. The feature size of transistor, 7 nanometers. Okay, you can see now. So that's the current AMD technology. Now, all right. So this feature size can determine the transistor density. Right? Yeah. So when we compare feature size, we can easily translate to density. Yeah. All right. So now let's look at the different versions. When we change to a different version, basically we change the number of something. Yeah. Here we can replace something by, some other measurements. Okay. Doubles or halves. Sometimes we use halves. Sometimes we use double, right? Yeah. So approximately every 2 years. Yeah. Here, let me give you 3 examples. Yeah. The first example, microprocessor prices. That one, becomes cheaper and cheaper, right? Microprocessor become cheaper and cheaper. So in that situation, we should use halves every 2 years. Cutting half every 2 years. Yeah. But the memory capacity, that's double, right? On the same unit square area, the number of also transistors, because of the memory also, number of transistors, double every 2 years. Yeah. So this is the, memory chip. Yeah. The density. Also, we consider the transistor density. Yeah. Another one, resolutions of digital cameras. Also double. Resolution becomes higher and higher, double every 2 years. Yeah. So these are different versions. When people use these versions, they can also refer to Moore's law, because different variations of Moore's law. Okay. All right, so for the first video, I just want to give you this kind of background regarding the Moore's law. All right, so let's stop here. Yeah.